Welcome to Radio Melee with your hosts Toph and PPMD.
I've been wanting to do that. I've been wanting. Did you hear that? What did that? Did I come through to you? Did you hear the?
Yeah. No, you. Not. I don't.
Right?
I heard it and I felt it, which is so important. Yeah, I loved it, man. I love the radio enthusiast vibe we're bringing here. We are trying to be the people's pod, as it were. So I'm very excited.
People's pod.
Yes, yes, sir. And I am excited to jump in on this episode 2 of Radio Melee with you, Toph. And
let's do it.
Yeah, what sort of things can we be expected to be talking about today, or might be talking about today, sir?
That's a good question. Okay. Here's how I think it could be best summarized, my man. I was like looking at Twitter as I'm wont to do, want with an O. You know that word.
Yes.
And I saw someone, I don't remember who it was. I wish I could give them credit, but they said something along the lines of like, with SCL happening. And it's like, it's like a real Mango Zain. Okay, obviously it's not a double elimination bracket, but it's like Mango Zain finals, top level play. Everyone's grinding. People are practicing really hard for the tournament. It feels like Melee's back in 2021. Like, which is kind of how it always is at the beginning of the year. There's usually a little bit of an off season in the wintry months. It's just kind of standard. For some reason, our community is, we've kind of got this de facto. Obviously, there's no real, it's not like League of Legends or like, there's no established offseason, but it kind of works out that January, February is usually a little sparse in the tournaments. They kind of start ramping up again in March and April. And yeah, I'm feeling the energy, dude. I was watching some good Melee this weekend and having a good time. And I mean, I think there's a lot of fun banter that came out of that. We saw Johnny made a tweet, some opinions on things. Did you watch the SCL? How do you feel about
SCL? I mean, yeah, man. Kind of before I get into that, I want to make sure that everyone out there knows if they want to get in, get their questions going about everything that we're going to be talking about, please use the command Radio Melee, join the Discord, get your questions in, and make sure that you actually ask us the question that you tell the production that you're asking, because if you don't, we will pull you. That if you guys might be able to guess which question someone did that with last week. But anyway, we're not going to harp on it. We're just letting you know. This is an upfront disclaimer. We are ironing out the show. But yes, that preamble said something to the YouTube. That preamble said SCL was fun. It was fun. I think there are a lot of interesting takeaways, right? Like, what is the status of of Mango's place in all the community? What is going on in the Falcon hierarchy? I think there were as many, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were as many Falcons as Foxes overall in the divisions. And I think there were more Falcons in Division 1, which I think is a very interesting thing. I'm not sure that we've seen so many Falcons, condensed into a little Falcon ball double jump up at the top, for a while, right? Like, that's very interesting. And so I think there are plenty of things we can be talking about today. I'm not sure what jumps out to you or the people most, but I thought there are a couple of things that I could talk about, or there's questions that could be related or unrelated to SCL that we can go into here. So I'm kind of curious what you're feeling today, Toph.
Yeah. There's I wanted to emphasize something you said, which was that definitely for the viewers, get in, ! Radio Melee. It's super easy. Just join the Discord. You can plop your questions right in there.
Get in there.
Because we got a lot of questions last week. We didn't get to all of them. We had a lot of awesome questions in the Discord. Me and I'm every now and then what I did not do last week that I will start doing. I'm going to keep an eye on the questions myself. And if I see any really interesting questions that I want to talk about, in particular related, they don't have to be related to current events. They could be related to, historical stuff, or just me and PP, could be whatever's kind of on your mind. But, we're going to try to put a slant towards, what's happening, like current events in Melee, SCL, stuff like that. Kind of whatever the tournaments are going on, what's hot in the community. But yeah, I mean, there's no restriction on what you can ask. And PP, it's funny you mentioned the Falcon. I want to jump back to that for a moment, dude. Okay, so I feel like back in the day, dude, there were like two schools of thought. There was the school of thought that Falcon was like actually really good, underrated, like had a lot of potential, but was just, really hard to kind of, use and succeed within tournament because he had some really bad matchups or whatever. And then there was a school of thought that was like, dude, Falcon sucks. Like Falcon, like people are gonna figure this character out, and he's actually like, you know, like solidly worse than, you know, characters like Puff and Peach, and you know, at some point people were thinking maybe even Ice Climbers might be higher than Falcon. People were basically saying this character's, you know, super gimmicky, doesn't actually have any potential. I remember, you know, I was roommates with Cactuar for a long time. Cactuar was one of the Falcon disbelievers. He always thought
he retired,
you know,
some Falcons, I think, too. I think it didn't help.
I think he did. Where were you on that debate? I'm just like, and has your opinion changed, or, you know, I don't remember what your thought process was.
Yeah, no, that's a fair question. So let me think. Where have I been on the Falcon question? The Falcon question, as it were. I was thinking, I think in the past, my thoughts were something like, the character seems solid. I don't see a way for him to beat Falco and Sheik, but the character seems solid enough. Maybe he can do most everything else. I don't know what happens in the Puff matchup. And that was mostly my take. And it didn't help that a certain individual who now creates rectangles for fun, who also started a separate movement in addition to that, also switched off of Falcon, and there wasn't so much Falcon representation up top.
Right.
Then there was the 20GX movement. There was so much optimization of the character.
Yeah.
A character that was considered to be cool and not for nerds. And then there was so much of that. There was like the counter force. The pendulum swung the other way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people's minds started changing. I remember having a conversation with Drug Fox in 2014 about Falcon Sheik specifically. And he made some really interesting arguments, and I started thinking, oh, maybe that matchup's even. And I'd never really thought about that before. I was like, oh, it just looks rough. Like I see Mitsu King just out here mollywopping
right.
some dudes with the guns holstered, and I was like, this doesn't seem right. So I was worried for Falcon, and then but then, you know, I thought about it, and I thought about where things were going and everything, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe he can do more. And even, you know, even in the last like couple of years, I would say even more optimizations happened in the Falco matchup to make it more playable anyway. And so I really think this character. Do I think this character makes it to the top tier? I don't think so right now. But do I think this character can push top of high tier? Yeah, I do. I think that I've held that opinion for, you know, at least a couple years now. Really interesting character, and I think that's kind of been like an underlying, almost unseen sometimes story that I think might be coming together right at this moment.
I feel like if you hop in a time machine from today and you go back to 2000, I don't know, 11, 12, 13, and okay, yeah, so in 2021, actually, like, there are like 3 Falcons in the top like 6. And like the 4th one's like not that far behind. I just feel like people would look at you like, what?
Bro, Melee's so cool in the future. Melee's so cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa, man.
Well, okay. I mean, let's you know, we'll dig into that more. I think if people ask about it, obviously there's a ton to talk about from SCL. I think we're definitely going to get some questions about Mango and Zain and just kind of the future weeks. And
yeah,
you know, SCL season 1 was a very exciting month, and I think SCL season 2 is shaping up to be exactly the same. But I think we're just about ready to bring in our first caller. So yeah, what's your name and where are you calling in from?
Yo, how's it going? What's your name? Where are you calling in from, gamer?
I can't hear him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay,
yeah, you're good.
Hey,
you're good. You're not only good, you're great.
Yo, what's up? I'm Keegan. I'm from Kentucky, calling in. I just want to say, I'm sure you guys are gonna get used to hearing this, but no, I'm a huge fan, so this is tight. I'm all giggly feeling. But basically, I just wanted to ask.
Great. That's great, man.
So with Mango winning on FD, I kind of want to ask kind of a 2-part question, but how do you feel the general perception of the Spacie versus Marth matchup is going to change, like for Fox and for Falco?
Good question.
And also, if you can kind of see this from your perspective, how do you think it's going to go from IBW and Leffen's mindset with the matchup, and how it's going to change for their, like, you know, you see Leffen and IBW talking about it all on Twitter, like how's the landscape going to change for them dealing with Spacie propaganda hate and stuff like that?
I do see them talking on Twitter. I see them talking on Twitter all the time.
Yeah.
I see it in the morning, I see it in the afternoon, and I see it at night. That's a good question. PP, you're probably gonna have a lot to say, because I mean you're literally an expert with both Falco and Marth. So that's like
I
really
will make
good
sure. I will make sure not
on this
to.
question.
Yeah. I will make sure not to overdo my my answer here, but just to make sure I understand your question correctly. You're talking about are Spacie's going to be changing that? How is the Spacie matchup going to change on FD, and how will Leffen and Cody's mindset change about playing Spacies over time? Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Toph, do you want to start with anything just to make sure that I don't ball hog the whole time of the question?
Sure. Yeah. I'll definitely let you kind of, you know, mostly handle this one. But the only thing I'll throw in is that I think for Leffen and Cody, I think they're pretty like they've pretty much kind of separate, you know, like Fox and Falco are pretty. I think people lump them up as like the Spacies, and it's like, oh, if a Spacie did well against Marth, then maybe they can do it on FD. But I think for Leffen and Cody, the way they've been looking at it is like, at least what I've observed is like Falco doing really well doesn't necessarily mean anything for the Fox Marth matchup, which makes sense. I mean, it is a very different matchup. Sure. Fox's laser doesn't have hit stun. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Mango even said maybe on stream or on Twitter or something, he's like, Falco beats Marth on FD. I don't know if he meant that. I don't know if he was just being Mr. Cool Guy. But, you know, no one ever said anything about Fox. So I think for Leffen, I think to answer the Leffen and Cody part of your question, the only thing I'd point out is like, I just don't think they're seeing it as like the Spacies versus Marth. It's more Fox versus Marth is over here. Falco versus Marth is over here. Those are two different concepts, two different matchups.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'd say this doesn't really change their minds about much. And I'm sure they've, you know, maybe if anything, maybe it makes them go, okay, well, we could always, you know, if depending, I guess it'd be kind of funny. It'd actually be the funniest timeline where they go Sheik and it ends up not going as well as they hope. And they're like, we got to go Falco. That would be the funniest timeline, I think, for sure. But I don't really know. I don't think that's where that goes. But that is easily the funniest place where this goes next. Anyway, so I do think they see it separately. But yeah, so Spacie's changing it on FD. I'll kind of echo what Toph was saying about Fox on FD, and I think I really don't think that's going to change their perception too much. So I guess I'll just talk a little bit about Falco. I mean, Mango was doing things a little bit differently. I don't know if he specifically prepared something for Zain. I mean, he was playing around power shields very differently. Will Zain adapt back to that? You know, it's not entirely clear. I mean, I imagine he will. You know, Zain does analysis pretty well, it seems like, and usually brings something new when they're playing. So I would imagine that we'll see more things coming back from that. And I don't think this is like the end all solved part of the matchup. But yeah, let me see. So the thing with FD, the thing about that makes FD really different is Mango is even starting to do double jumps against Zain. He was trying to get away. He was trying to go up and get away, and then like do a platform mix up sometimes. And that's great on a stage where you can interrupt your double jump with, you know, platforms. You can wave land, you can land and do stuff for a shield drop or whatever. On FD, you don't have that, so it's much riskier to do it. If you get called out once, your stock is gone, basically. Because if you have to be below the stage, you're pretty much dead as Bird. So it's a very serious situation if you're Bird trying to go for a mix-up like that. So you don't see that as much from Mango on the stage. So he has to learn to play more grounded. And that's kind of what he's been doing. And I think he's been able to find more ways to get in there. I would say, and this is not an isolated incident. Let's also talk about that. Zain, what did he win? It was either like 2 or 3 months ago, I think. He won something, and he didn't play Mango. And then Mango and him played an exhibition, and Mango also won an FD twice.
Oh, yeah. I do. It was like LSCS or...
Was it LSCS?
It might have been LSCS. It might have been, it might have been the Galint Melee Open as well.
I'm not sure. Either way, it was something that was a little bit ago.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but we know the events. We know whether the name or not is there. We know the events, and so this is not an isolated incident. And so this does make a little bit more of a case. I don't think 1 or 2 instances makes an argument for saying, oh, this is solved on this stage, or oh, Mango has figured out Zain so far. I'm not convinced of that yet. I don't know if either of those players are convinced of that yet. I guess we'll see. But let's see, what can I say to add a little more substance to this? I guess I would say that Mango started doing, so I guess I'll just be specific about it. Mango started doing like a mid laser. Zain, it's a very easy power shield, like so many frames to power shielded. And so Zain hits that one. Mango's often assuming Zain will hit it. And then he does another laser where he jumps over, and then he does an early laser. And so Falco's legs like pull up, and so he goes directly over the laser. He gets another one out. Keeps Zain from being able to like come in with like a jump or him standing up and doing something. So he's able to get a punish in that sort of way. And so that particular thing. I mean, there are other things that Mango is doing. And I think Mango also just played more solidly than Zain. And I think that's kind of part of it, right? Like to play more solidly than Zain is no easy task. And so that's kind of that's the Spacie test versus Marth, or at least we'll say Falco test versus Marth. You got to play solid, and you have to bring some like good meta tech. And I think Mango was able to hit those points in their time last weekend, and also previously, like a few months ago, like I was saying. Is that a trend that can continue? Can Mango continue to play well? Can Zain innovate more against the thing that one of the things Mango was changing and everything else, and mess him up? We'll see. And I think that's something Zane's really focusing on. I think I actually had his stream open right before I got on here, and he was playing against Falco, so he might have even told the Falco to use that option. I didn't really check out long enough to see how much that was happening, but he's thinking about it, and I guess that's kind of that. And I think it's a bit hard to say where this is going so far, because the way these two players work with things is like someone will do something new, and then that'll catch the other person for like a little bit, and then the other person will do something different. They'll catch them for a little bit, and you have to really just see how things evolve. So let's kind of watch and see. And Toph, do you kind of have anything else to add about that? Because I feel like I don't want to end it on watch and see. I'd like to give something more, but I'm not really sure where to go with it. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's just Mango. If nothing else, Mango showed it's clearly doable. Like I think that people get very gloom and doom about it. People like to just like human nature. People like to jump to extremes. Zain must have solved the matchup. Clearly, no Spacie is ever going to beat him on FD ever again because he solved the matchup. His punishes are perfect. I think people are quick to jump to conclusions. What's that?
Reminds me of Mewtwo King. Do you remember that? Or like no one could beat Mewtwo
Yeah,
King.
exactly, dude. Oh, he's a robot. The game is solved. The robots took over, and it's like, dude. I mean, you look back. Okay, well. There's certainly an argument that 2007 Mewtwo King was the peak of Melee forever and ever.
Okay, yeah,
but
discounting that, right?
Discounting that, yeah. I mean, clearly there's a lot more Melee to be played.
Yeah. So
thank you, Keeg, for the question. By the way, that was a juicy one, for sure.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys, for answering it. I don't want to like if we can't, you already focused on my question for quite a while, so I don't want to, if it's how it is, cool. But I was wondering, like, so do you guys think it's more of a Mango thing in the matchup? Because people talk about how Zain and Mango are on their own tier of play, or do you think it's a Falco thing between Fox, I guess? And if that's too much to get into, it's cool. We can cut it. I was curious.
I can answer that pretty quickly.
You can say your piece. Yeah, you can say your piece real quick, PP.
All right, thanks. I'm sorry. I appreciate it.
That's all good, man. I would say that at a certain level, like once you get to top level, it becomes like character player become very similar as a sort of thing.
Yeah,
I package them very similarly, but I would say that without Falco, Mango's not going to be able to do his stuff. Or like Scorpion Master's not beating Zain on FD, which may be a controversial take. I don't know, but I don't think Mango, as incredibly good as he is, incredibly talented as he is not going to be beating Zain's Marth, at least not consistently with Mario on FD. And it's still very challenging to do that with Falco. I mean, a lot of the games Mango would be up and Zain would almost have like a full comeback, at least once I remember seeing. So something to keep in mind. This is not. If Mango was like 3-stocking Zain every game, I think we would be having a different discussion right now, especially this was going on for like half a year or a full year. It'd be a very different discussion right now. I would say this is more of Mango having an edge, using Falco more to his potential. And I think the discussion is different if he were playing Fox, but that's just not the case right now. So we can't really say for sure.
All right. Yeah, I got you. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank
you.
All right.
And let's bring on our next caller, who I think we have just about ready. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Where are you calling in from?
Hold on. I don't know if you can hear me. Wait, first,
I can hear you.
Stream. All right.
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm calling in from Virginia.
What's up? Shout out to Virginia.
Yeah. Don't really play Melee. I'm a big watcher of it.
Mm-hmm.
My main question is, will the SCL bring like new storylines, and is that like something that is giving that feeling of Melee being more lively than usual?
Yeah, okay. I think certainly, like, honestly, like Melee, like storylines, I think I think that the cool thing about Melee is there's always, and by the way, it looks like for some reason my OBS Ninja is kind of slideshow mode right now. I have no idea why. On my side, it looks fine. But I'll try to fix that in a second as I answer this question. But I was going to start by just saying, like, you know, I think the cool thing about Melee is you kind of always have some storylines going on at like the local and regional levels. And I think once you really get into the scene and you engage with like your local community, there's kind of always some storylines going on. And that's like a really fun aspect of it. But I do think that like what ultimately propels the scene forward at like the top level is like top level competition. And, you know, it's cool that we got people like, for example, Ginger, you know, who enter 3 tournaments a week. But, you know, guys like Mango, Zain, you know, for whatever reason, you know, they kind of only want to enter the really big tournaments to kind of, you know, make sure they're sharp for those tournaments, but also have some time to focus on streaming, focus on other things. And I definitely just feel like Mango, like it's just a different feeling as a whole. Like when, you know, like PP just talked about Zain grinding on his stream for Falco, like that feeling of like, oh, the top players are preparing for one each other again, and they're all sharp and they're trying to get as sharp as possible. I definitely think it adds an element of like, just kind of intrigue, you know, like I want to see what's going to happen in the future SCL weeks. I'm really curious. Last SCL, Mango won week 1 and then didn't make it to finals for the following weeks. Like that could happen again. I don't think it necessarily will, but you know, it's definitely really cool knowing like, oh, there's another crazy tournament bracket that's about to happen right around the corner, and there will be one for the next couple weekends. I think that's I experienced this feeling for the first time. I remember at the Summer Smash. It's like 2014, 2015, when there was like a big tournament every week. It's like, oh man, Armada and Mango are 2-2 in tournaments or whatever. And then, oh man, you know, oh, Leffen's getting real good. And then, you know, 5 gods are all at the same tournament. You know, it was like, it's like kind of harkening back to that kind of feeling. And I feel like, yeah, you know, Melee is always a great game, but it's the greatest, I think, and there's the most storylines for sure, I think, when there's like really hype tournaments going on, the top players repeating.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if I want to respond to some of that, I would also say, you know, shout out to spectators. I mean, I think that is the majority of the player base, or people that play a little bit, but not so much. And so I think that's really important for the scene. So, I mean, your question is just as valid if you're a spectator as if you're top 100 or whatever, right? Like, we're just glad that we're able to answer it, you know? So, and to go into it, let's see, what can I say about, yeah. So will SCL bring more hype storylines? I mean, I think certainly, like, even if like, let's say Mango wins the whole thing and he just wins for the next like few months, like that's an interesting storyline, right? Because every time it's like when HBox was winning, it's like every time it's like, is he gonna win another one? Or is he going to mostly have dominance? Like, it's still an interesting storyline. As long as the people are playing, something is interesting is going to come from it. As long as Zain is trying to figure out what's going on with Mango, or, you know, acts when he's not trying to figure out what's going on with Mango, for example, then something interesting is going on. And you can be as involved with the storyline as you want, right? Like Toph said, like, you can go to Zain's stream, see that he's working on something right now. I was in IBDW stream earlier, and I saw him working on Marth's Cheek. He was playing his Mango's Marth, which is always an experience. But anyway, it was, you know, so you could be as involved with the storyline as you want to be. But the thing is, it is there and it's evolving. And I think something really cool about SCL is you, like Toph was saying, it's coming out so often, and because there's like a little bit of stakes, like, oh, are you in Division 1 or you're in Division 2? Oh, could you change places? Could you go back to have to qualify? Like, there's always something that's like kind of meaningful, like the standings in the beginning, standings week to week, and then you see the preparation in between. You know, what are the people doing on their streams? Like, it creates storylines almost automatically, and I think that's what's really fun about it. And of course, you know, once the SCL happens, you know, there will be Summit not so far away after that, and you know, there will be so many events going on. So I think it is pretty much just going to be starting automatically. So like Toph was saying before, we did have the time off. Now we're pretty much picking up. Storylines are going to be happening. You know, Falcons doing all their Falcon stuff. I mean, you know, that's always an exciting thing. And then, man, honestly, just what's going to happen with Zain Mango is, will there be offline events more this year? And is Leffen going to start, you know, giving Zain a hard time with Sheik too? Or then what's going to happen with Leffen Mango playing again after not for so long? I mean, there are all kinds of things that are still just out there, right? Like, there are things like you can look at them right in front of you, like SCL now, but you can also look at like the larger picture, like what's going to go on. How's Leffen's hand going to heal? You know, like whatever, right? Like there are, and then, you know, there are other Europeans besides Leffen that are also improving. You know, what that going to be like when they reintegrate with the full scene? Like, yeah, there are all kinds of questions that I think are really interesting right now. You know, AMSA starting to play online again, the Yoshi Amsa, excuse me, and him coming to terms. Like there are so many interesting things we can be talking about right now, and of course, again, SCL just kind of being the focal point, I think is awesome, and I think it could just be a gateway to so many wonderful things. And so I think it's a cool time to be thinking about and enjoying Melee. I hope that let me know if that answers your question or if Toph got it.
Oh, it did. It did.
Cool.
Dope. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. Good to talk.
The stream. I was very excited for today to do that.
We got you in.
Glad we got you in. And I think
cool.
we just about have our next caller as well. So hello, what's your name and where are you from? Where are you calling in from? What's your question?
My name's Jack, and I'm from Illinois. And I was wondering.
Shout out to Illinois.
I was wondering if, with Mewtwo playing with IBDW so much, do you guys rise to the top of the Melee rankings again?
Mewtwo?
Yeah.
Oof.
If you need to take a minute, I can talk about that.
Man, I mean, it's a question of does he want to, right? Because I think skill wise, I think sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, but you got to go to you talk about ranking. You use the word rankings. You use the word rankings. We don't rank off friendlies. We rank off tournaments. So I mean, I think for Mewtwo, he just the real question is, would he want to go to tournaments, right? Does he want to compete? I don't know. I think if he wanted to, I think he could.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of something that I think about so many, strong players that are either less interested right now for whatever reason. I think M2K has just wanted to focus much more on being a content creator. I think that's where he thinks the magic, the magic of the scene is right now, and so I think that's where he wants to focus. And so I don't think his interest is in competing so much, and that's partly due to Armada retiring, which had so many ripple effects throughout the community. So I think it is a question of does he want to, not so much like is he capable? Because we've seen over so many years that he's clearly capable of being at the uppermost spots in the Melee ranking. So I don't think it's a question of ability. But yeah, it really is just a matter of how much does he want to go through the grind, and he's not going to get to play Armada, or what's that going to be like for him? So yeah, I mean, do I have much else to say? I don't know. I mean, I don't think I have too much else to add on to it. If you have a different part of your question, or if Toph wants to add on.
I actually didn't even realize that. It was funny. You just said something that I was kind of picked up on, which was I didn't realize that so much of Mewtwo decision to kind of focus more on content creation was inspired by Armada like that. He mentioned that.
Yes, he did. He said Armada leaving really kills my motivation for Melee, and that's not verbatim, but it's close.
Kind of what his
and that wasn't the only thing. I think there were other factors in the scene he was responding to. I think the content creation. I mean, even before the pandemic and everything, obviously. But I think there were.
With Mewtwo, I think as he kind of settled into being just kind of like a pro gamer in general. I think for a while you kind of got the sense from him that he kind of wanted to find some way to make, because remember, this was the guy that used to haul ass to every tournament in a 200-mile radius, by way of Greyhound bus or Amtrak, to make a living, really. Like this guy, Mewtwo, which exactly, Mewtwo was that dude. So for me, I think in some ways it was kind of just a long time coming. I think he was kind of always looking for a way to make a nice, stable, comfortable, way to just thrive as a pro gamer. And, obviously there's a lot of ways to do that. I think as far as I can tell, just kind of looking at Mewtwo, when I watch a stream, when I talk to him, he just seems like he's just really happy right now. And, he's mentioned competing again to me recently, but he did say that the situation would have to be right. It would have to be, it would have to be worth his while, because he's kind of realized, his time is valuable right now. And there's a lot of things he's kind of working on. He's doing coaching, all this stuff.
Yeah.
But I think he could. TLDR, I think he could.
I think that's, that answer it?
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Hey, good deal. Glad we could get your question answered. Mr. Man from Illinois, hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for calling in.
You too.
Appreciate you.
Man, Mewtwo King. What a guy. Love Mewtwo King. Love me some Mewtwo King. I gotta tell you. Love me some Mewtwo King.
Man, LOL M2K really is one of the strongest memes. It just goes so
it
hard.
kind of stood that, and there was the, it's like in the East is the PP Craigasm, and in the West, the LOL MTK. It's like the two, it's like the yin and yang, the
sure.
And the Craigasm of the PP,
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to bring yin and yang into it, I don't think there's any way I can disagree with you, sir.
Hi. So,
hello.
What's up?
Do you think that it's a problem for top players to feel kind of boxed in by like a reputation of their playstyle? Kind of like how Mewtwo King is supposed to be this frame perfect robot, and Mango is this fiery, very reads heavy playstyle. I know that for you, PP, you've had like at least by the documentary that you kind of had to transition the way you played the game, and I wonder if that was ever a thing that you or anyone you knew had to deal with.
PP, what do you think? I like this question. That's interesting. I've never even thought about it.
Yeah.
You ever think, dude? You think Wizzy's like, and like it flashes through his head. He's like, okay, I'm pretty sure he's gonna tech in. I'm just gonna stomp him for the kill. And he's like, but wait, what would chat think? I'm supposed to be the reaction guy. I can't stomp.
It's funny. He actually has started stomping.
Unreal.
He actually has, and maybe chat got him.
And the answer is no. That's the answer to your question.
Well, the answer is chat got to him.
No. All right, PP, what do you think? Have you ever felt this at all? Well, did you have a strong reputation like that? Like, was there this is how PP plays? You were a little less boxed in, I guess, than maybe some other people. I don't know.
The thing I will say. So okay, there's a foundational statement. Having a brand is cool. Okay. It's good because you can project an idea of yourself. It can never be a complete idea of you, but you project an idea, and that is important. And even feelings associated with it, very, very important. And it also when competitors come up against you, they're like, "Oh, I'm not just playing this person. I'm playing this whole person. Like this whole idea of a gamer, this whole persona, everything about them. Like I've heard these fans, I see their sub count, their Twitter follower count, everything about them. I'm playing against all of that, the whole star power." And that is powerful. So the foundation of that is there's a really strong side to this. The downside, and this is kind of what you're asking about, is can this be overly simplistic? Can this box you in? And I think the answer is yes. And I think part of that comes from some stuff like if you don't brand yourself, that other people will. I think there's kind of some of that. And I think, I think Mango's someone that certainly knows that I'm going to brand myself. I don't want other people to do it. So I think he's someone that understands that side of it really well. I don't feel like it's something that I'm uncomfortable doing because I prefer to just say, okay, well, I just want to play. I don't really like being this thing that's not me or seems like it's not me or whatever, but that's my own thing. But anyway, to answer your question directly, Toph, did I ever deal with something like this? The thing that always kind of got me was people said, PP's a neutral player, not a punish player. And as the documentary kind of talked about, I started as a punish player and then I just added on neutral. And then I kind of talked about this on my stream, I think a month ago, because it was all finally coming out. I was like, yeah, the reason a lot of people said that particular thing about me was because of Apex 2015, where I had to make certain decisions and I opted to focus more on neutral because that felt more true to me, but not true to all of me. And so I just didn't get a chance to really challenge that. So it was kind of one of those sands of time gamer moments.
I remember when I played you at whatever tournament that was where you beat my ass in Impulse 2013 or whatever. I remember I was like, man, if only PP was really not a punish player, I would be. I just wish those memes about him not being a punish player. I was really thinking this at the time, but I remember. I remember looking back when people started all this punish game neutral, whatever, kind of dichotomy thing. And I remember thinking back, I don't really ever remember looking at it that way. And I don't remember other people around me at the time looking at it that way. I almost feel like there's this concept, which is what's the concept where people, oh God, I don't remember what it's called, but it's it's not even a gaming term, but it's just the term, people assume that if someone's really good looking, maybe they're not that smart, or if someone's good looking and smart, they must have some deficit of character. They assume that you can't have it all. right? People like
Okay.
want the universe to be fair, so they assume
Oh,
that,
that's
like,
a funny way to look at it.
you know what I'm saying? So I almost
Yeah.
wonder if people did that to you because they're like, well, his neutral's so good, his combo game must be bad.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's
we
a
can
fair.
look at the videos and actually weigh, is his combo game good or bad? But most people don't, human biases don't work that way. And I wonder if a little bit of that was going on.
That's fair. I mean, yeah, people do love justice, even if it's. I mean, I think like there's some. Well, sure. I mean, I guess so, right? But I think that's also like a kind of hype way to go about it. But again, I don't think like when people watch Mango, I don't think people are like, oh, like, man, I sure really love when Mango is doing movement on someone's shield, and then he death combos them. They're like, oh man, there must be a deficit somewhere. And they're like, I don't think people really think of that. So I think it might be what you're saying could be true, but it can only be true if there's a vacuum, kind of like what I was saying earlier. If you don't brand yourself, then people's stuff will come onto you, and that might be a way that we can make that sort of thing true. And I think maybe to circle back to the question, can that box people in? I mean, sure. I don't think this is something I've kind of wanted to talk about for a while, and because there are so many aspects that this covers, but Melee players they're not going to Discord servers or talking on Twitter necessarily about how to brand yourself or how to play in such a way where your fan base is going to increase more, get you sponsored more likely. Like, people are going to Discord servers and trying to talk in chats and stuff about how to get better at Melee and how to beat people, and that's what Melee players care about. That's what most people that game and are really competitive care about. And so when you get really good and you do have all this attention, and then there is a need to brand, like, and stream more and whatever, there's like, well, no one told me that, or even it's like, okay, people said it, but it's like, I didn't think, or it's like, it's just not something that's there. And that's part of like just the way that Melee community has to figure it out for ourselves. There's not really infrastructure there to work on that. And so I think there is a time where people can be boxed in, maybe not the way I would quite describe it, but people would feel misunderstood. They would feel like they're not fully seen as a person or gamer because of that. And I think there's a lot of that, and especially in a community of people that really, people really want to be seen just generally. And so I think when there is that type of perception, there could be the really good hand of it, but there can be the really challenging end of it too, like I was saying. And so I think like the whole community factor is part of it, and I think the individual factor is part of it too. And so I hope that like you can kind of see the interplay between the large community, not necessarily helping people with the branding or needing to put something on someone to help with the narratives, kind of like harkening back to the previous question, to help with the narratives, the punished player versus the neutral player. Oh, what's more important? Like whatever, right? And then the personal thing where people are like, because of the community thing and there's no infrastructure, they're like, oh, well, I don't know how to brand, or maybe that's not my type of thing. Like, even if people talk about it, I'm like, I don't care, or whatever. And so then things get put onto them. They're like, oh, this is annoying. Like, can you imagine how much like Isaiah would hate things right now? Like, it's a
I can definitely see that.
It's a funny thing to think about. But yeah, I covered a lot of things there. I don't know how you, Toph, feel about that, or how Pop feels about that. But
no, that sounds about right. I was just gonna add, I feel like certain players in particular, I think they have even really talked about it, like, or even like, dude, look at like Hungrybox, man.
Oh,
like Hungrybox, it feels like some tournaments he camps like crazy, or not anymore, but it used to feel like he would camp really hard at some tournaments, and some other ones he would kind of. And I remember he even said to me straight up at a Smash Summit, we were playing some random Summit friendlies, and he was like, I've had to make this decision because I'll be playing, these Falcons, and that's a matchup where if I want to, I can play really, really lame. And sometimes I have to ask myself, what's best for Melee? What's best for the spectator experience and things like that? And, I think you could definitely call that feeling boxed in. I mean, he might be one kind of extreme end of the spectrum, but yeah, I mean, that I would hate to have to feel that way, man. Because at the end of the day, you should just try to win, right? It's tournament. You should try to win, but yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're saying you felt hungry boxed in. Am I right? Q, hit me with some applause.
Oh,
yeah, thank you. You got my back. I thought the boos were kind of coming on that one, but hey, we clutched it. Let's go, baby. But yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying. How do you feel about this, Pop?
Yeah.
I think that I feel like it would be. Y'all are kind of talking about it from like the perspective of like Hungrybox and how it like I was and you also mentioned Wizrobe. It was like players who kind of aren't typically considered hype. But I do also feel like I don't know, like people like Nunn and Bobby Big Balls.
Yeah, that's a fair question.
Another.
Yeah, actually, that's a fair question, and I won't leak. I ain't a leaker, but I have talked to someone that has a perception, a more positive hype perception. That said, it's hard. It's hard living up to that. Do you feel like there's a lot of pressure on you to do that? And I would say that that's just really challenging, and that is the flip side. Is you can be empowered by all the support you get, but also it can feel like something really hard to live up to. And yeah, so I mean that is a real challenge, and I mean it really just goes to show you that even if you feel like you've kind of won the branding war, it's still a challenge to kind of maintain that after that point. And
living up to expectations. Expectations will get you. They'll drag you down. Let me tell you, it's what we call suffering from success.
That's right. And I mean, I think a lot of people discount that. Like if you tell someone that this could be a struggle, people will be like, "Oh, what do you mean?" Like people adore you. People just want to see what you do. They just love what you're doing. There's like people aren't really talking bad about you, whatever, right? And I think, I mean, as people are rising up, it's one thing, but I think people habituate to things. They get used to it, and you know, for better or worse, right? But that is something that happens. And so when you do get used to it, it stops. You need that, and this is, you know, the celebrity story that we hear so often. You need that baseline of, wow, this is, you know, you are the greatest. Like, I love you. You need so many people telling you that in order for you to just get by. And then if any of that goes away, you're like, oh, you know,
what am I doing wrong?
Challenging. Yeah. So
yeah.
There is a real challenge of that too. And whether that's necessarily a box or whether how much of that is self-imposed and things like that, you know, that is kind of its own like topic that would take much longer to answer than we probably have time for on the young pod here. But I think that it's a great question, and it is an important dialogue to. I mean, just remember that the players are human. Incredible as their abilities may be, incredible as, you know, the things that they're doing on stream or how good their brand is or how interesting they are, legitimately, they're still human, and things even things that are very, very positive sometimes can be challenging. Sometimes they're the most challenging things for people.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Pop.
You'll have a great day.
You too. You too.
Man, cute.
It sucks to feel boxed in. Let me tell you, it sucks to feel like you've got, I don't know, man. I think so many people run into it. It actually is very prevalent. Like you said, not necessarily boxed in, but just, you know, having to live up to expectations, or it's just a bad feeling, man. You know? Yeah. And I don't know. Be kind. Be kind to people.
Be kind. What a good way. That's really something we should have focused on a little bit more. But yeah, absolutely.
Not that it's even the fault of any individual person,
right?
You know, try to, you know, it's just we can all do a little better sometimes.
Sure.
So I think we have our next caller on the line. How are you doing, sir or ma'am? What's your name?
I'm doing great. My name is Nate. I'm actually calling from Ohio. How you doing, Toph?
Nate from Ohio. Shout out to Ohio. What's up, dude?
You too, PP. What's up, man?
No, shout outs to Ohio.
Awesome. All right, guys. I'm going to hit you with a little bit of a curveball question. I don't see a lot of people talking about this. There have been a lot of upsets in the SCL. I was wondering if you guys think that it's possible to be consistent as a top player, like, I don't know, Armada, Mewtwo King in the past, or if we've really progressed past that meta.
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Oh, wow. I've thought about this, but I didn't get very far. Yeah,
it's a weird question.
It is a weird question. It's like, it almost feels like, Nate, it almost feels like you're asking, like, okay, during the Five Gods era kind of thing, like, very rare were upsets on the top 5 from people outside of that. Of course, it happened from time to time, but it felt like, you know, especially if you look at free cases, like I think Armada's probably the biggest example, where, you know, he had like 4, I think he's had 4 people ever who have beaten him that weren't gods, you know? And it's kind of like, is there something that's fundamentally different about Melee today that makes it impossible to be consistent? Is it just that the skill gap, for whatever reason, is smaller these days? Like, it sounds like you're kind of asking what's going on. And what is the cause of the fact that there's just less consistency overall right now, it feels like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You guys obviously would have more insight as to what that would be, because you guys kind of get to see a little bit more from a higher perspective what it's like to compete nowadays. Like, what does it take? And I think you definitely summarized it perfectly. Like, what is going on that's causing so many upsets, really?
You mean the
I'll start.
upsets? I just want to make sure I clarify really quickly, just
Yeah,
to
go
make
ahead.
sure.
Go
Do
ahead.
you mean upsets like at like up to top 20 level, or do you just mean like top 5-ish, top 6-ish level? Just to make sure I clarify.
Yeah, I mean, I see top 20 levels. So the big examples were like, no spoilers, obviously. Do I have to be concerned about spoilers for
I've
SCL?
been
Nah,
a
it already happened.
few days. I think you're good, man.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
past. You know.
Okay. I didn't want to throw any
We'll
curveballs.
bleep it. We'll bleep it, man. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, like obviously the big examples were Moki HBox, soon say none. So like you have your top 20 players, overcoming sort of the top 5. So that's more in the range of what I mean.
Gotcha.
Right. I'll start by saying that well, first of all, there are actual like examples. Like, so you look at 2 of the players that were, in the list of the 5 gods are active today, right? So Hungrybox and Mango are super, and it's kind of funny because in the case of Mango, I would argue that Mango is more consistent now than he was in the mid, maybe 2015, 2016. Well, I guess it depends on the year, but I would say Mango feels like he's at his most consistent, like right now. Like, I don't really see Mango getting upset. I think his worst loss was none at SCL 1. Like, what, like he had he didn't make it to finals for a couple of those weeks, but it didn't feel like he was getting beaten by players who were like much worse than him.
Yeah.
And certainly right now, Mango feels really consistent.
Yeah.
I do think for me, the crux of it is I do feel like the general level of play is higher for sure. Like, cause like you look at, for example, you mentioned Moki HBox, and like, to me, I'm not even sure if that's like an upset, like I don't look at that like, oh man, HBox dropped the ball or whatever. I'm just kind of like, that was a good set between 2 really good players. Like, I think whatever Moki's rankings are worldwide right now, I just feel like Moki is just, say Moki's, I don't know what, to somewhere in the 10, maybe 10 to 15 range or something right now, or something like that, maybe even higher. I'm not sure, but say he would be ranked exactly like 10th right now or whatever. I just feel like, first of all, I think the 10th ranked player, upsetting a top player or whatever is not even that unexpected even back then. But I mean, especially right now, I just feel like, especially at the top level, like it just feels like it's, I mean, man, Kalamazoo has had some crazy, like Kalamazoo. What is Kalamazoo? Is he top 25, top 20?
Could be.
Like, yeah, PB, you could take it for a little bit. Yeah, I definitely feel like just overall, I feel like there's a lot of competition right now in like the top 20. I just feel like people are generally just really good, and so it'll just happen,
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, there are a lot. I think there are several ways to answer this question. Because like the parameters aren't I still kind of like the parameters are still kind of weird to me. But so part of the reason the gods were those guys was because there was that period of hype. There was the golden age, and then there was like a culling of the field, like leveling. Like there were just so many people that quit the game after Brawl came out. It was a blow up. And then whoever was left that grinded super hard, there weren't a lot of people left like that. And I think there was a big disparity in terms of, especially of punish game among the gods. I mean, I think there were other things that really set them apart, but like, I think they just hit so much harder than everyone else. And I mean, the neutral was obviously usually stronger too, which, made it even harder for people. But like, I think with so much like Uncle Punch work and so much like lab work, I think that has been equalized more. So to give a point to why that might be the case, we can point to these sorts of things. And I would also say that like, I think the scene is still much more alive and there wasn't a big like dying off of things. So I think like people are going to just keep rising over time as long as the scene stays more active. And so I think those are the big contributing factors.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about, let's see. Does that make you think of anything, Toph, while I try to get my thoughts together?
I think I think that's a pretty good way of putting it. I mean, and I'm also just kind of thinking of the specific cases here again. Like, dude, like Sunsei Nun, because you mentioned Sunsei Nun, like, dude, you know, with Sunsei Nun, they're from the same region, like, or at least they played in the same region for quite some time. I remember the first time I ever heard of Sunsei, he won a tournament over Moki and Nun. So, like, literally the first tournament I ever heard of Sunsei, this guy, like, upset Moki and Nun to win a tournament. And I was like, oh, well, okay, clearly this guy's cracked. But he beat Nun, you know what I mean? So, like, you know, there's probably an added element. Again, like PP, you said there's so many factors. I mean, I think an additional factor is that a guy like Sunsei plays a guy like Nun. First of all, Sunsei is already quite good. Like, I think he can totally, you know, he can beat practically anybody. But then I'm kind of like, you know, you got to feel like going into that set as Sunsei, you're like, okay, I could do this. I've done this before. This is what you know. This is a match that I've won before. You know, so I think there's that aspect to it too, in that specific example. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of factors, but
right. I mean, I didn't want to focus on these specifics too much because I feel like this is a question that really runs through the community. So many people are thinking about the consistency, the God era, what are we in now? And there's so many threads. There's so and to break that, and I would love to break that down on a game level and everything, but that, you know, there's just so many ways to go about all of this discussion and some things that could or couldn't be talked about and everything. And so, you know, figuring out, you know, how all that can be sorted. But I think at the end of the day, there weren't so many like insane, like super crazy, like unpredictable upsets that happened at SCL for me, based on my time watching it. So when I see some of the results, I'm like, oh, well, these can make sense in terms of like player trends and you know, how strong like just everyone generally was at the event. And like you're saying, some of the, like, so many of the skills that people have are the skill field is kind of condensing, and there's so many things that I think still separate. There are still some things that I think separate the you know, like we'll say Division 1 from Division 2 or the higher part of Division 1 from lower part or whatever. We can still talk about that. But because I think Melee still has that. But I think I think I don't see like crazy upsets happening all the time. I think there are some games where that happens a lot. And in Melee, I think our rule set and I think just the mechanics of the game really allow for people who are often going to know more or be more prepared or be playing better that day or whatever to be coming out on top. That's something I really like about Melee. So and so I'm always very uncertain of ways to answer the question of what is really the state of Melee right now. Are there so many upsets? And I'm kind of like, there are kind of more. It's just, I think maybe like, I think some of it is kind of like, there's not like a person that's like always defined at the top. Like there was Hungrybox at the top and there's Armada at the top. Yeah. And now it's kind of like, well, we don't, it's like, it's Mango, Zain, and the back and forth. And then and that kind of like, everyone has like that weird feel. Like, how do we define the scene? And it feels like kind of uncertain, and that kind of moves down the list as we move down, I think some too. And so I think there's that feeling there, but I think if you actually probably shake it out, and maybe this is, maybe we have to get like a Melee stats guy on sometime or something to, maybe they'll correct us, or maybe you know, they can have their take on this. But I wouldn't necessarily say that like it feels so unbelievably uncertain right now to me. Maybe more than the past, like you're saying, but not uncomfortably so.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I will throw in a final thought that I had, which was like, you know, just on the topic of like consistency. It's like, you know, so often I think people misattribute consistency in a game to consistency of specific players, or just like, you know, consistency. Like an example I always think of is like, look at like Smash Ultimate, which overall I would say has a lot more upsets than Melee. But then like MKLeo, you know, obviously before offline happened, MKLeo was like more consistent than I think any Melee player. Like I feel like almost, I mean, he dropped a couple tournaments here and there, but I felt like, like Leo's consistency in an inconsistent game, you know, it's like, it's hard to just paint in broad strokes when it comes to this sort of question, because you know, like BB said, lots of different factors, but just food for thought there.
Yeah. I mean, I think if I just had to add on like one little thing to elaborate on Toph, I would say so much of what people bring out, so much of what their own drive or how much their routine factors in how much time they're willing to spend a day on working on the minutia or whatever. I think is really gonna pay off too. And I mean, even at the top level, that can be hard to just continue grinding out. I think that's why so many higher tier esports just grind through people so quickly a lot of the time.
Yeah, could be. Thank you for the question. Good question.
Yep.
Good question. Something I've thought about recently too.
Very
just kind of the nature of, and I think people are likely to. It's like, I think it's common to have that sort of thing on your mind as because the rankings are just kind of getting shaken up all the time. It feels like right now.
Yeah.
People are kind of moving around a lot. I think, something that's kind of been on my mind is like, how are things gonna, I think probably on a lot of people's minds is how are things gonna shake out and settle into place once offline happens again? How are we gonna use the seeding from online tournaments to determine that? What are the rankings going to look like when we have enough offline data again to do the first formal rankings back? How that's going to end up looking could be really interesting and really probably unpredictable.
And what would you say? World Tour gets involved too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I think we just about have our next caller. It looks like. So hello, where are you calling in from, and what's your name?
Hey, how's it going? I'm Nick from Canada.
Nick from Canada. What's up, Nick?
Shout out to Canada.
Not much. How are you guys doing today?
Doing all right.
Well,
so I was listening to the podcast about maybe half an hour ago, and I was wondering when I could call in, and ironically, you guys are live now. So I was just kind of wondering, with all the different content platforms that Golden Guardians has, such as the streams, obviously, the YouTube content, what are kind of the goals of Radio Melee, and what do you guys hope that this is going to bring to the Melee community that you couldn't find through, like the YouTube content or tournament streams?
That's a great question. That is a great question. I feel like for me, I've done podcast type content before with Scar, Scar Toph Show, but I've never done one where we actually take, call-ins like this and kind of talk to the community. And I think even just I've got a view, I've got the window pulled up of the Discord chat right now where people are submitting their questions. And dude, there's a lot of people ask a lot of different types of questions. I think that there's a lot of fan love, I think, in Melee. There's people and I was like this, especially when I got into the game, but even today, I think it's just, there's just so much personality behind, the top players and stuff like that, that I think people are just naturally going to have a lot of questions they want to talk about, and they don't always have an outlet. So we're providing that outlet, and I have a good time, talking to people like you. I want to dial people in and chat with them and find out what's on people's minds. And I think this is a really cool format to get to do that.
Yeah. This is awesome. Absolutely. And I just kind of want to make sure, Nick, that I have your question right. You said, what do you want this to bring to Melee? And then there was a second part to your question. Let me make sure I just got that again.
Yeah, I was just curious what the goals of Radio Melee are. I was just wondering what it's going to bring to the Melee community that's, you can't get through something like, the YouTube content. Just kind of more medium specific, right?
Yeah. So I think a limitation of Toph and I playing Tenkaichi and screaming is that we don't dive into the nuances of the scene, or we don't talk about historical experiences and things like that. Long form content is the place where we do that. We go deep on various topics. We try to figure out, we try to pool our expertise and give you guys more satisfying, interesting answers or combinations of answers that might cover things that either someone didn't think about or they didn't think about in a certain way. And ideally add to the history of Melee, ideally add to the discussion that's going on in Melee. I'm someone that doesn't really tweet. I don't really find Twitter to be a place for discourse. But what I do like to do is I like to talk, physically, verbally talk. And so this is a medium that feels very good for me. And so already this allows me to be much more engaged with the community. This already allows me to be much more engaged with Toph or with Golden Guardians or with the with Melee itself in a way, because the community in the game are always kind of connecting and influencing each other. And so I think this is fantastic to give something that you really couldn't get somewhere else, even on say my own stream with people, because there's a dedicated time for questions. Whereas on my stream, maybe I take a question about something, but maybe I'm playing Melee and I'm talking way too fast while I'm playing someone on Unranked, and there's just no time to think about the overall consistency of the scene, because I'm I need to teach you guys about the Falco Ditto or whatever. There's just no time to think about that. So I think this is a dedicated space where we answer topics that people are thinking about. Like people sometimes, like there's so many things that people talk to each other about, like, like content creators or whatever. They'll be like, what do you think is good? What do you think is a valuable thing? But I think like sometimes it's just better to like let people tell you what they want. I think that's important too. And it's not always better to assume I know what's best for you, the community member, you, the community, and to let that come to me. And so that's what I think is really valuable about this is like everyone gets to be involved in this content. Like it's not necessarily like, yes, I get to have a voice, but also you guys get to have a voice. And I think like that true community aspect where it's not necessarily an elevation of either myself or Toph over everyone, but like it is us saying we're going to be prepared. We're going to come to you guys with our best selves that we can on that day. And we're going to try and connect with you guys as best we can and give you guys our honest thoughts. And hopefully everyone learns something from it. But as for goals, I mean, we wanted to iron out our process just to be perfectly transparent. So for Toph and I, but we're going to start bringing guests on. We want to try and I certainly want to improve my own skills as a host or, whatever, and get better at podcasting and everything like that. But I want to make sure that I can explore these ideas that like if something that would be really cool, this is what we were talking about during the inception of the podcast, is where can people go? Where can we have a place where people go to talk about the most pressing issues? Like they're saying, okay, well, something happened over the weekend. This person did something mean to that person on Twitter. You better go see what these guys have to say about it. Like, or there's this result. What is everyone's talking about it? What do these guys say? Like this could be like the meeting place. This could be where everyone goes to kind of hang out, talk about the ideas in a time of such segregated talk where, you've got an echo chamber here, an echo chamber here. They don't often mix or whatever. Right. I think it's so important to have a place where people are connecting like this. And so I think this is a really valuable thing. And do I know all the ways to achieve that? No, I'm still trying to just, get the overall keeping it running process right for me personally. But what I would really like for this to be is a meeting place, a place of connection. And as it pertains to Melee, I think this could be a place where maybe people that don't normally talk to each other come together, or like maybe we have two guests on that like beef or something. We have that through the questions that you guys offered, like things are better understood. Like, I don't know, like there are all kinds of possibilities here, right? I'm not necessarily saying that the show has to or doesn't have to be one thing, but what I do know is I think it's been fun, and I think as long as I kind of follow that and I treat your guys' questions with authenticity and I really listen to what you guys and Toph have to say, that things will work out all right. How do you feel about that, Toph?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Amen. So yeah, I hope that answers that all right for you, Nick from Canada. Does that make sense? Do you have anything else you'd like to say about that?
The only thing I'd really like to touch on is you mentioned that it kind of gave a voice to the community.
Yeah.
So do you think podcasting is kind of the best way to kind of bridge the gap between maybe like content creators and community members? Because I mean, with Twitch streams, obviously, you have that chat box versus, seeing you in person, voice, etc. Right?
Yeah. It's a good point. I mean, I think no, chat, that's like the good side of chat for sure. That's what chat's good for. And yeah, I mean, I think that like PB said, it's just I think it's just nice to just have another medium, I mean, I think it's it's just like the more avenues we have, the better, I think. And it also depends, sometimes Twitch chat's moving so fast, depending on whose channel you're in. It's hard to get your questions across. So, hopefully for us, you get to dig in a little bit more, get to dig in a little bit more as the asker. Also, I think, there's a very real logistical thing that we tried to do where, we're scheduling this kind of early in the week. So for Radio Melee, like, on like today, like, the weekend after a tournament, or the week, I should say, after a tournament weekend, we're kind of specifically, we're setting it up so that, if there's hot topics on people's minds from the weekend, there's kind of it's like you go from the tournament and then Radio Melee is right after it, you know what I mean? So we kind of set it up like that on purpose, so that if people have questions about, or they just want to talk about whatever they just saw at some tournament or some hype stuff going on over the weekend, it's just like a convenient avenue to do that. And hopefully, but yeah, like there's a lot of possibilities. We'll see what happens.
Sure. Thank you so much. I believe you guys answered my questions, and keep up the good work.
Appreciate that.
All right, I will say while we're waiting for our next caller, I will say Twitch chat and this should synergize, right? If there's something that we talk about on stream on Monday, for example, we bring it in here. If we talk about something on Radio Melee, we then bring it into our Twitch chat. Also, my Twitch chat asks me about degenerate things way too often, and we don't do that here. So
why do you think that is? What is it about you that attracts? Also, I think we may have had our last caller. That may have been our last caller, actually, of the day, I believe.
Yeah. Let's find out about that and not talk about whatever we were just talking about.
I don't have any degenerates in my Twitch chat. My Twitch chat is very pure and wholesome.
Wow, that's crazy. You must just be way more pure and wholesome than me. I have things to learn from you, Toph.
I actually wonder if it's the opposite. I wonder if you're such a beacon that people feel like they're like, oh, I'm gonna sneak in some. And with me, I feel like there's no, you know what I mean? They don't feel like they need to with me. They're like, I'm raunchy as it is. They don't need to bring it up because usually I'm the one that'll bring that sort of stuff up. But
I'm remembering part of our content filming yesterday, which I obviously can't talk about, but the thing we were laughing about a lot.
Oh yeah. Make sure you guys all subscribe to the Golden Guardians Melee YouTube channel so that you can check out the funny video that we just recorded yesterday that we're not going to spoil.
We'll link
that you wouldn't watch it.
Yeah. Click the bell, bro. I mean, it's not hard. It's easy. You get notified. Sometimes YouTube unsubs you, check again, you know.
Does that happen?
Apparently. It happens to some people, but it hasn't happened to me, but the people say it happens. Anyway, man, just keep checking and clicking. Maybe make more accounts and click. Is that illegal? Can we say that? I don't know.
It's not illegal. It can't be illegal. It'd be illegal. Illegal?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's a fair point.
You go to jail for it? Like, oh, you made a bunch of YouTube accounts.
Well, you can make a bunch of accounts.
They might ban you.
You can't click sub with all of them. That's where they draw the line. I don't know. I'm not sure, man.
Yeah. Get you. Those Google ninjas, maybe they'll get you, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm not sure. Yeah, this is I also wanted to kind of say while we're talking about things people could do, I mentioned while I was answering the question that Toph and I, would like to have a guest next week. We'd love to take suggestions, community driven. We're at least I don't know who we can and can't get. You can keep it in the community, keep it out of the community, I guess. I don't really know how that would go, but we can do it.
It's less likely that we can get someone out of the community. We can try, but you know, if you say Keanu Reeves, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
We can try to start that conversation.
Yeah, that's beautiful. But
can we get him?
Yeah, maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe not. Maybe just not. Maybe the answer is just no. It feels impossible. Feels like it'd be really hard to
you were mentioning that you had a connection to Lil B, Toph.
1 week, maybe we'll get Lil B.
Yeah. The most based podcast of all time.
Yeah. Might be able to do Lil B. Lil B is like the extreme upper end. But no, if you know, no guarantees that it's going to be one of the suggestions, but if people, you know, YouTube comments or you know, even in chat and stuff, if there's people that you're excited about as like an actual guest, because the thing is they're going to be answering your questions too. So they're going to be on the call and then you're going to be on the call. And by the way, I just wanted to emphasize, you know, for the people that we got a lot of questions again, and we don't get to all of them, unfortunately, even though a lot of them are actually really kind of cool. And if you have a question that you're dying to ask, you know, come back next week. You know, every week we're going to be doing this. And if we see that same question in chat over and over, you know, eventually we're definitely going to be like, eventually like, okay, you know, we should get to this question, you know, so please do, don't give up just because we weren't able to get to you today, but our man Wormlax behind the scenes in the Discord is doing his best, you know, getting us topics. So
he's worming through them. He's worming through it, man. Shout out to him.
Gotta respect the worm.
Yeah. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to touch on? We got a little bit of time left, Toph. We can call it. What are you feeling, man? What are you thinking about what's the best use of our time and the people's time here?
How does Falco do versus Marth and FD?
Okay. So laser takes 19 frames to come out as long as you get it up. Okay, but I mean, what I really like about Falco Marth on FD is it's very interesting because it's really strong for both characters, right? Falco gets so much control. Marth gets insane punish, but Falco honestly gets an improved punish too, because Marth can often slide off on platforms, for example. Falco can still set up tech chases by the edge that can lead to very devastating situations, or Falco can opt for bears. Marth can no longer use platforms to break out, things like that. Very important.
So say fair?
I was saying he was using bear.
Yeah,
I guess maybe I said it makes it fair in terms of being able to hit hard on both sides.
Right.
That's what I was saying. I think the main challenge for Falco is being able to get Marth to like, I don't know, 15, 20%. Because after that, I think like combos go really hard for Falco. I think just like like if I had to say anything, but like Marth, if he up throws Falco at 0 and Falco DIs behind, he won't get a grab. If he forward throws and Falco DIs down and away, he won't get a grab. So like, it's not necessarily like free for either character right there. Falco having laser damage gets Marth to that threshold sooner. So it's an interesting dynamic. And I think it's something that people probably are thinking a lot more about given the Zain Mango matchup being such a predominant one right now. And I think, let's see, what else can I really say about it? I mean, Falco can't break Marth combos as easily with platforms now. Falco loses platform ways to approach and things like that. But Falco having such a strong laser game, I think it's still okay. Like when we saw Mango's openings on Zain, we didn't see it coming from we still saw it coming from lasers. We still saw it coming from like Mango locking Zain down and pressuring his shield, or calling out Zain's option because he didn't want to be pressured in shield. Things like that. So like early arrow out of shield, or slightly delayed arrow out of shield, or even like full hopped in the corner a few times, which Mango called out very quickly with down air and just killed him. Like that was the very end of the set. Actually, was the last interaction.
I remember that, and then he just didn't have a double jump.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it is playable for Falco. When I play it as Falco, my feeling is mostly as long as I'm playing fine, it feels fine because I'm getting enough openings. But if you're Falco and then you get chain grabbed by Marth and then you spawn in and then that same thing happens, that feels really bad. And there's not an equivalent for Marth's end really. Like being comboed for a while, you always feel like you can kind of do something. I guess like if the punish is optimized enough, it doesn't necessarily feel that way. But like with Falco, having that happen twice is a really rough feeling. So I think that's what contributes to a lot of the issue. And that's why like coming correct with the neutral so very important for Falco in the matchup. And I think like again, like I was talking about before, the power shield game that was coming out, the anti-power shield game coming out from Mango against Zain made that look so much more doable. And I mean, Zain's really got to answer back on that because, I mean, dropping on FD is a real problem for Zain. I think there are other stages he could go to that could still do him fine versus Mango. I don't think he has to do FD, but I think like Mango hating the stage, like I think there's a player element that would be really good for Zain to get that back. And also like just, being able to sort out that laser game is just going to be so much easier because like, the laser game is prevalent on every stage, but on FD, it's so much more pronounced. So if you solve it there, you can solve it so many more places, or at least like connect to platform stuff. So I think that is where it needs to go for the Zain Mango and also for the Marth Falco, which again are pretty interrelated right now because those are the two at the top doing that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Fair enough. King.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I try to throw that out sometimes. Dude,
I think that's about it for me this week. I'm really excited to be watching SCL this weekend. Maybe I'll see you in chat, my dude.
Yeah,
and everyone in chat. Maybe I'll see y'all in chat. Shout out to all of you. I think that's about it for episode 2 of Radio Melee. We will be back next week, and we will be joined with some kind of guest. We'll see what happens.
Yep, I'm pretty excited for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Really excited to share that with you all. The show continuing to evolve. Q, how you feeling?
Mission complete.
Thank you, Q. That's what I'm talking about, man. Q, the powerhouse behind the show. You love to see it. Anyway, I think that's about going to do it for us today, guys. Let us know in the comments. Wherever you can talk to us directly, Twitter, YouTube, whatever. Let us know. Golden Guardians, please let us know how you felt about the episode. It was a lot of fun for me. Thank you so much for hosting it with me, Toph. And any closing thoughts before we wrap it up here?
I was going to say something like stay
hydrated.
What did he say? Stay hydrated. That's right.
Stay hydrated. Let's go. Yeah. Take care of yourselves, gamers. Love you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching.